Welcome to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today we have a very special guest. I'm really excited, all the way from Maryland. Flew just in for the show, hopefully. My good friend, my peer from Prince George County, Walter Simmons. Walter.
Hey, Jaime, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Excited that I've been seeing you almost every week for 3 weeks now, right?
I mean, it's good for me.
That's a good thing.
It's good for me.
I'm happy.
Right?
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, Walter, we have a lot to talk about. But first, I want to tell you thank you because we've only known each other a couple of years, and we didn't meet in person for a while because it was through the pandemic that we met. You reached out. We talked and then we followed up and now I feel like I've learned so much from you. Every time that I visited you, I come back with something that I want to do, and I can't take Irene because she comes back with 10 things she wants to do. But again, thanks for being such a great colleague and a friend.
Well, Jaime, you say it like I'm giving you something. The true story is I called you looking for help from you. So, if I wouldn't, being here today is very key because you helped Prince George's County in a time of need by sharing with us a best practice. So it's an honor for me to be here. It's an honor for me to see you in person, be inside of your job center, because I read about the work you were doing all the way on the East Coast. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Walter. Yeah, and we're going to walk over to the job center here in a minute, and you're going to get to meet our board chair, our board vice chair, and so we're excited about that. But let's start by sharing with our listeners here from the western part of the country, what is it like in Prince George County? Do you face the same challenges that, you, me, and our peers talk about when we meet, or is there unique circumstances going on in your county?
When you look at Prince George's County, we're the county that surrounds D.C. on three sides. We are 500 square miles, 1 million people, and we really represent a huge urban population because we're right next to D.C., but we're also a county that has an equestrian center. So we have a huge rural population as well. So it's a diverse group of people, and we experience everything that every other major metropolitan area experiences. One of the big differences we see across the United States, which you probably see in Las Vegas, is we have a large minority population. We're also a melting pot. We have an MGM just like you have MGM. Now yours is a lot larger, and you have a lot more casinos. But when you have those attractions and you have a place like Las Vegas or like DC, you start seeing other socioeconomic issues that are related to seeing large populations of minorities, immigrants, English second language learners. And so I think that's something where we actually have similarities that other people don't realize. It could be 1,000 miles between us, but our people are the same. And that means that we're experiencing the exact same thing you are, just, thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, Walter, about talking to you, meeting with you and our peers, because there's 550 plus of us, and nobody else understands the challenges we have. And so it's cool to talk to somebody who has the very same challenges every day. Again, you learn from their successes, and you also learn from their mistakes because they warn you and say, don't go down that road because I win it. And so that's one of the things I like, I think. And you're right. I spent 20 years working for MGM, and I went to National Harbor the first time. It's such a beautiful property, but they tell me, and you've been there a long time, that Prince George County didn't look the way it looks now. Tell us a little bit about how that area evolved into what's now a beautiful harbor. There's again an upscale property, and we're going to talk about your American Job Center in a second here too.
Well, one thing before we go on, you're right. 550 plus workforce boards, and a lot of the different organizations, community organizations, nonprofits that you see across the country. And one of the things why it's important for me to be here today and for us to collaborate is because workforce development had 3 Ps way before COVID and the PPP loans, right? And it's something that we've built our system on. And we very rarely talk about it. And so one thing I want to highlight before we move forward is what we're talking about today is practice-proven principles. And there isn't a degree for what we do. There isn't a guidebook for what we do. And the only way that we have the success is learning from each other. And what I try to practice every single day is practice proven principles. When they talk about a subject matter expert, that's somebody who is seen as the leader in theory and in practice. But we can't operate in theory because people's lives are dependent on what we do, the policies, the decisions, the programs we implement. They directly impact lives. They directly impact the success of small business owners across the country. So we don't have the opportunity to just throw random things out there. Every single thing we do has to be practiced, has to be proven, and has to be based on some kind of principle of success. And so that's what we do. And that speaks to what Prince George's County has seen over the last 2 or 3 decades. We were known as the bedroom community of DC. People would work in DC and then you drive out to Prince George's County and get you a big yard, get away from the hustle and bustle. But as we see with cities across America, as people kept coming to DC, DC kept growing. And DC is only 33 square miles. So the only way DC could go is up. But we're not going to have New York skyscrapers, so DC had to grow out. And that growth of the District of Columbia, the nation's capital, grew Prince George's. And that's how we've been able to see our labor force grow and grow and grow. We've seen jobs grow, and that's changed the physical landscape, right? We've seen green spaces become urban places. We've seen areas of plight and poverty become places where they have $500,000 houses. And so what we've been trying to do is what's key for workforce development is how do we ensure, and this is very key for me, right? How do we ensure that every single resident, and when I say resident, I mean resident, right? I don't mean documented citizens. I don't mean people that have a college degree. I don't mean people that are native English speakers. Every single resident gets their piece of the American pie. And so that's what we're doing. We see ourselves at Employ Prince George's as economic equity officers.
Love it.
And we do that by helping job seekers obtain livable wage careers and businesses thrive in a global market. And so as Prince George's County has changed, as National Harbor grew from a place that had forests and trees to a place where now you have a Gaylord Marriott, an MGM National Harbor, a Tanger Outlets with over 100 plus retail stores, and retail space that goes for $55 a square foot. We've had to grow our county to represent that. We also have one of the largest educational institutions in the country, the University of Maryland. We're also home to some of the largest institutions like NASA. We're trying to get FBI, right? So it's a huge, Lockheed Martin. All of those places are places that have called Prince George's County their home over the last 30 to 40 years. And our goal as a workforce development service provider and the Prince George's County Workforce Development Board is to ensure every single resident gets equitable access to the American pie.
I love that.
American dream.
Yeah, I love that, Walter. Economic opportunity.
Economic equity officers.
Wow, economic equity officer. If you don't trademark that, when you come back, I might have that on a cup over here.
I'm going to give that, because you gave me the rapid reemployment grants, I'm going to let you have that. Okay. You tell Irene, that's a freebie.
All right, that sounds good. And I love the PPP as well. So you set me up for the next question because you talked about $55 a square foot for prime real estate. And I was there just 2 weeks ago with you in a mall, a beautiful mall right across from the National Harbor, right across from this beautiful MGM property. And, lo and behold, there's an American Job Center right there. And besides the fact, again, that it was beautifully done, I love the design because you had to work within the confines of what a retail store usually is. There's depth issues, but just brilliant the way it was set up. And I saw the hustle and bustle of the center and how your staff was meeting the needs of the community. I want you to tell us again, number one, I know, thanks to you, that you're not paying those $55 a square foot. And so there's big, and as a matter of fact, you're going to share with us that you're paying less than you would pay in another place that's not as nice as that. So there's financial reasons to be there that make sense, that are good for the taxpayer. But there's other reasons also to go and change the way I think that for 30 years we built these big brick and mortar buildings and we asked the public to come to us. But you're saying, no, let's go out there and find out where the need is, which is something we're doing here again. And I always love to see the parallels that validate our strategy. So tell us about why you're out there.
I'm out there because of access. We've been talking about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I believe workforce development has been doing DEI from day one, because we're tasked with serving the people with the most severe barriers to employment and giving them the opportunity to achieve a livable wage. But let's not talk about opportunity. You have to be able to grab opportunity. Successful people can tell you of a time when they took advantage of an opportunity. Failures can tell you of a time when something happened to them, right? But we can't be we can't leave that to your own internal self-determination or your own internal factors. So we have to do DEIA, and that's access, right? And we can't keep believing that, everybody needs a job, so we can put a job center anywhere and poof, like Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. They're not gonna come. They don't know you exist. Mm-hmm. This is a big world, right? So we have to increase access. We increase access by taking traditional 16, 20, 50,000 square foot, these huge job centers, and let's take that one 30,000 square foot job center, and can we create 7 smaller job centers? And that's what this is about. We took a 3,000, 4,000 square foot space, and we dropped it into a place where within walking distance, there's over 100 businesses and thousands of employment opportunities. Yep. Within jogging distance or a healthy walking distance, if you got some good shoes on, right? There's tens of thousands of jobs. So we sat a job center that has to help people get jobs in the middle of hundreds of thousands of jobs in walking distance, depending on how healthy you are, right? Then we sat it inside of a major retailer, one of the top 5 national outlet brands in America, because we knew we would see tens of thousands of people walking through that center, right? And that's what access is. We can either say like, hey, you should come, your businesses, you should leave your operations, what's making your income, drive over to this job center. Hey, the community, you leave your daily routine, you leave the places that you travel every day and come to this job center, and we're gonna be your one stop, and it's gonna be a great world. That's not realistic anymore, right? So what we said is, where can we be where residents and businesses collide and everybody has to put on clothes? So we said, let's put it in a retail center. The businesses are already gonna be here, and people are gonna need clothes, so let's meet them where they are. So we took a 3,000, 4,000 square foot retail space, made it a job center, and we're gonna increase access by making it easier for you to visit your job center. And now when I say you, I mean your business, because now you don't have to leave. Now the businesses are in walking distance when they need employees, and residents, when they're shopping for Christmas, Thanksgiving, those are the big holiday season, they can also shop for a job. Yep. Right? So it's all in one, but it's all about increasing access. And to increase access, we have to meet people where they are, and that means being right in their community. Yep. Or being where they shop or where they travel. Let's not make them go outside of their way to achieve economic success.
Yep. No, we believe in that here, Walter. I know you know this. We, over the past 5 years now, have committed to exactly that idea, moving into public libraries, moving into chambers of commerce, moving into community colleges, schools, these places where the people are going anyway for other reasons. We feel that bringing the resources there makes total sense. And it's even better when it makes financial sense, as we talked about before. So the work that we're doing, I think, is why, again, why I love hanging out with you and our peers from NOB's High Impact Boards, yep. Or the U.S. Conference of Mayors Workforce Development Council, which I know Amanda was representing you last week.
And you just got a big honor there, right?
I did, yeah. My peers trusted me to be now the first vice president of the group, and our friend Tamara Atkinson from Austin is the president, and Danielle Frazier from North Carolina is the second vice president. So well,
congratulations. I'm going to take that humble pie away from you and say first vice president. Uh-huh. I think that's an honor. I wanted to not let you go over that, because you do a lot of work, and I think it's an honor for you to represent me and other people at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, because you are the spitting image of what we need, of a person that's been in the field, that is humble, that knows the work, that's innovative. I really believe you and I get along because every day we wake up and say, whew, what can we do today? And so thank you. It's an honor for you to represent me and our peers. So I just not going to let you, I'm going to take that humble pie and say, First Vice President, congratulations.
Thank you, Walter, my friend. But I think that, part of why, again, you said we get along is that we're always thinking. And the main difference between us is that I think you only sleep 4 hours a day because you're sending emails when it's my 11 p.m. and it's 2 a.m. for you. And then in the morning, I'm waking up and you've been up 6 hours. So I think you sleep a lot less than me. But I think these things that you're talking about is why last year we high-fived each other at Knobs Conference because you won a big award. I think, these are all signs of innovation, creativity. And I'd like to ask you how do you get to be a highly effective board? Because again, we were invited by Ron Painter, Melanie Anderson, to be a part of Knobs high impact boards, and I love being there because I feel like I learn from every one of my peers. But in your opinion, I know you share with me it's only been 5 years for your board, but it's been a meteoric rise, not just in success, but diversifying the funding revenue. So is it good fiscal management? Is it good performance outcomes? Is it effective partnerships? Or is it all that makes you a highly effective board?
It's all of that. But the biggest is entrepreneurship. When we started Employ Prince George's County over the previous decade had 3 different workforce development organizations. It had 2 nonprofits and 1 government, right? And what I said was, we're not going to be a nonprofit. We're not going to be a government. We're going to be a business. We're going to be entrepreneurs. We're going to do what makes sense. We're going to, 1, identify our customer, which we said the customer is the business. 2, we're going to identify a product that we're going to provide for that customer. We identified the product as our resident, our job seeker. And 3, we needed a manufacturer. And we saw our community as manufacturers. And they produced a raw product, which is a job seeker that's not job ready, or a finished product, a job seeker that is job ready. And we said, that is our business. We are in the business of manufacturing a product that meets the need of our business, and putting that product in the face of the business, and that business saying, oh, this is the best product I've ever seen. I want it, and let me get 10 more. So we decided to be a workforce development business. And through that, we decided that we were going to do 2 things. We were going to operate a workforce development system that massively produced that product. McDonald's isn't great because they make a good Big Mac or a good double cheeseburger. They're great because they make millions of Big Macs and double cheeseburgers across the world. And you know that whether you bite into it in Las Vegas or you bite into it in New York, you're gonna get that same taste, right? Whether you like the healthiness of it or not is another question. But that's what we decided to do. So we needed to create a system where we could massively produce that product at a quality that our customer knew and enjoyed and respected. And then we needed to create pieces inside of that manufacturing cycle that put those pieces together in a daily operation, but to meet specific population needs or specific industry needs, which are our workforce programs. So we said, we're going to create a business mindset. We're going to operate the Prince George's County Public Workforce System, and then we're also going to be a workforce development service provider in that system. And all of that means that we had to identify, how do we pay for it? How do we meet the need? How do we ensure quality of service? So all those things you listed are a part of it, but at the core, we're a business. If we don't meet the needs of our customer, we're going to go out of business. A lot of times, boards, governments, nonprofits that get fundraising opportunities, donations, or formula funds, they don't feel like they're reactive or have to be reactive to the needs of industry, to the needs of their residents, to the needs of their businesses. And we believe that we live, breathe, sleep, eat, and die at the job based on, are we meeting the needs of our community? Are we meeting the needs of our residents? And are we meeting the needs of the business? And we believe we can do that through that business process. And every single day we wake up and we're actually honored. I'm honored to lead a team of people who every day, like you and I, wake up and say, how can I better serve my community today? Whether it's reentry or immigrants, whether it's a specific industry sector or if it's working with our local government. So we just approach it as an entrepreneurship, as a business, and we create a culture where I tell everybody, every day when people start with us, I say, what's next? What do you want to do? So as much as we develop our community, we develop every single staff member at EPG. And so on the first day of employment, I say, what do you want to do? And normally they give me that cheesy, I just want to be a great employee. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't want to be a great employee for 30 years. You want my job? You want to create your own business? You want to create your own nonprofit? People say, yeah. I said, okay, I'm going to hold you to that standard. And every single day, we're going to work for you to reach your goal. Every single day is a professional development day. And what that creates is an entrepreneurial mindset where every single day our staff are trying to better themselves by improving their community. And so I'm honored to work with 80, 100 plus individuals who every day their business is improving Prince George's County.
I love it, Walter, how you summarized so eloquently the solution of the supply-demand equation, identifying the need, getting the product design, and then bridging that gap. I feel like, you're giving away a lot of free stuff here. We should, somehow, if I was a YouTuber, I'd monetize this, hit a bell for the extra subscription, premium subscription for the Walter episode. But this is so true. And when I was there with you 2 weeks ago, I get to spend a little time with Melissa from NADA, who now I can see why she's so grateful. She had great things to say about you, and she's grateful that you're on her board providing this kind of insight. Because, again, I think this is what we need to do more of across the nation. Talking about innovation, again, one of the things I've enjoyed is you invited me to be on this cool, innovative, thing called 7 on 7. And I know I'm gonna let you explain the name, but it was great because it's all about, again, sharing knowledge as we are today, best practices. And so I want you to tell me what inspired it, what made you want to do it, because you're doing it. It's not like you're putting that again on. I don't know if you do that after midnight when you wake up at 4, but you're doing it. I know that takes time. You have great speakers. How do you select those speakers? What's that process for 7 on 7?
Well, you talked about we're giving out great information. So we've been an industry leader thanks to your support and guidance, Employ Prince George's. And so we started our own kind of consulting arm because, again, practice proven principles. We believe that we learned more from our colleagues than we did from guest speakers who gave us theory, right? We learned from people who had done this work. So we started the Center for Workforce Excellence International, CWEI, and we built it on a basis of we're going to provide practice proven principles to workforce development entities, governments, and nonprofits across the country. But we also knew that I have a huge network. I have good friends like you across the country, right? And so we said, how do people learn about all the great work happening at Workforce Connections? So we used the football term. I'm a previous football player. Shout out to Fort Dorchester High School,
wow.
Coach Brad, and my alma mater, Newberry College. And we did a 7 on 7. 7 on 7 is when the skinny guys, your wide receivers, quarterbacks, go do their own kind of league with the defensive backs, so 7 on 7. So we said, we're going to take our network of great people like Jaime Cruz and Workforce Connections, right? And we're going to give them 7 to 10 minutes to talk about a best practice that they're the best at. And just 7 to 10 minutes. And it became 7 speakers speaking for 7 to 10 minutes about a specific topic. And we have different topics the first Thursday of every month. And so we pick people that shock us. When somebody does a program, or we see them present at a conference, or we see an article, or we see some kind of award, we notate that. And this is creating a community of practice where we can promote practice-proven principles. So every month, that's what we did. The people that we think are amazing, like Jaime Cruz, right? Like Tamara in Texas, like Patrick Clancy in Philadelphia, like all of those great people, like just so many great people that we meet, that we see doing all this great work, right? Even the Clyde McQueens that have been doing it for 30 years, right? Down in Kansas City. So it's a place for me to share my network, but also to share people that have mentored me, taught me, and say, hey, give out this great information to the rest of the country, to the 550. And so every first Friday every month, we pick a topic. Our next topic in February is innovative post-secondary programs and partnerships. Wow. And so we're going to have community colleges and four-year institutions that are working with workforce boards and doing workforce development, talk about those. And the real goal is that you hear something saying that they have the same funding source that I have. I have that same partner in my area, and say, why can't we do it? There's no reason why you can't. The only reason why you probably can is because you didn't know it existed. You didn't know how to do it. But there's a Jaime Cruz out there that has a blueprint, and hopefully he'll share it. And that's the goal that we do every month. And we get 80 to 100 people. We've had about 15 states on these calls, and it's just about sharing best practices.
I love it, Walter. So say it. We're going to put it on our screen here for our visual viewers on our YouTube channel. So say it one more time. How does somebody learn more about 7-on-7?
So it's the Center for Workforce Excellence International, CWEinternational.com.
Perfect.
And it's free. It's open to all of our workforce practitioners, CWEinternational.com. It's a 7-on-7. You click to join. We're going to welcome everybody.
Awesome. Well, our listeners hopefully will, find a way to get there, because that's how we learn. I know that's how I've learned, Walter, from hanging out with you and our peers. We've talked a little bit, and we've given shout outs to our friends from NOB, Ron Painter, Melanie Anderson, Kathy Amoroso from the U.S. Conference of Mayors Workforce Development Council and her team, Melissa from NODUP. We spend a lot of time with them, and that you and I both choose to be on these boards and these groups for the reasons we've shared. Tell us a little bit about how you feel. Is there any other ways that you get return on that investment of time besides, hanging out with people you like and, have fun with and learn from? Is there other return on investment from all the time that you put for those organizations?
It's professional development. I think that's one thing that we forget. When you stop learning, you stop living. You also hear the teacher will appear when the student is ready. I'm always ready. I'm always learning because I'm always living. And so I see these opportunities, webinars, conferences, meetings, to learn those best practices. And as much as I'm volunteering my time, every time I go into a place, I crack open my laptop and I'm taking notes. So I see the National Association of Workforce Boards, the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals, the U.S. Conference of Mayors and all the work that they're doing, the U.S. Workforce Associations with Bob Lantern and the California Workforce Association. Those are opportunities to learn. And I think one thing that we don't do enough in our industry is talk about career pathways and workforce development, talk about professional development and training. All of these are opportunities for us to grow and develop and promote and grow and build the future leaders in the workforce development industry. And that's what all of this is about. I want to build our industry. We have to build so that elected officials don't say, what is workforce? Or they say workforce development is the best kept secret. It's not good being the best kept secret, right? So we need to build connections with our local elected officials, our state elected officials, our federal officials, to show the value, to show that the labor force, your labor force includes the number of employed people in your region. That's your jobs number. A lot of times, either you're taking your biggest income generators of a municipality is income tax money. If you don't pay income tax, you pay property tax. And you need people, and then you have retail tax. If you don't have jobs, if you don't have employed people, they're not generating income, so you can't get income tax. They're not buying homes and properties, they're not buying cars, so the government doesn't generate property tax. And they're not visiting your local restaurants, grocery stores, clothing centers, so they're not getting retail tax. And they're definitely not going to hotels so you can get a hospitality or a tourism tax, right? Without workforce, this country doesn't exist because jobs go down, which means tax revenue, means streets, bridges, roads, schools, infrastructure, plumbing, all of that infrastructure goes away. And so I go to these conferences, one, to explain this to our elected officials, but also to talk about the importance so we can make sure that workforce development boards and job centers exist for generations 100 years from now so that we can keep growing as a community. Two, because I'm learning how to better serve those most in need. I got into this business because somebody told me, a young man told me who was incarcerated, the reason why he wanted to stay incarcerated because jail was better than what he had on the outside.
Wow.
And at that moment I said, nope, not on my watch. I'm gonna make sure that people don't think, or they're not living in an environment where they don't have food, water, shelter. He said, in jail I get clothes on my back, I got heat in the winter and AC in the summer. I made it my passion then to say that I'm gonna make sure that everybody has a chance for a quality life, so jail isn't better, right? That's why we learn. And lastly, I go so I can figure out how to develop my team, how I can develop our industry so that we continue to grow and prosper, because we're gonna leave here. And the success of Las Vegas and the success of Prince George's County, our job centers, our community colleges, and the people we serve is, who did Walter and Jaime train to take over after they left? Who was the third in line to take over? How many nonprofit executives are we creating? How many workforce board directors are we creating? That's how I determine success. When I see somebody leave my team and go become a chamber president, go take another workforce director job, I have 2 people on my board that used to work for me.
Wow.
They're now my bosses. I see that as a success because that's what this is about. So that's why I invest my time. That's why I encourage everybody to get involved in the association, to never stop learning, and to really think about how can we develop everybody that we encounter, right? I'll say this, I talk a lot, right? We just celebrated Martin Luther King Day. And I saw a clip, and I shared this on LinkedIn, where Dave Chappelle talked about how he talks a lot of trash and says all this. He was like, but sometimes you have to be a lion to maintain being a lamb. And he said, I talk trash a lot, and I stand up there and say a lot. But really what he was saying is I do that because in reality I'm scared, and I got to put out this image and so I can protect my home life. Martin Luther King was our lion. Martin Luther King wasn't fearless. He wasn't scared of, he wasn't think that he was impenetrable and bullets couldn't go through his suit. He didn't think that people couldn't kill him. He knew that he could be killed. He knew that what he was doing in the 50s and 60s was dangerous. But he knew that if he did not do it, his kids, other generations, and other people that looked like him would struggle. He was our lion. He fought for workforce development. He fought for improvements in education. He fought for equity, right? He was our lion, and he paid for his life. But we're here today because a lamb, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., decided that he was going to be a lion for people who were in poverty, people who had black and brown skin, people who didn't have a high school diploma, and said, I'm a fight for you all. And so I think what we do now, we got to fight for him. We got to fight for all those people who were lions protecting the lambs, even when it cost them everything, or even when they weren't actually a lion, but they had to pick a time when they needed to be a lion. So what I'll say is, Jaime, why do we do this? Why do I do this? I'm going to be a lion for workforce development. I'm going to be a lion. I'm an equity officer. You're right? You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
I'm an economic equity officer. That's what I'm fighting for.
Wow.
All right? And so I will be that lion for those people that need equitable access so that they can have that. And that's why I do this work. That's why I get a little more than 4 hours of sleep, but I'm driven. Every day I wake up, I don't work. I enjoy it. I have a good time because I realize what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. And I would encourage, and you're already a lion, but I would encourage everybody that listens, find that one thing, and it doesn't have to be workforce. Even if you work in workforce, your thing doesn't have to be workforce. If it's picking up trash and cleaning the environment, if it's volunteering at your local school, if it's coaching your local soccer team, because everybody doesn't have a parent. Find that one thing that you can be a lion for so that somebody else can be a lamb. And that's why this is worth it.
Man, Walter, you got deep there. And this is, I think, why we're such good friends, like you said, in such a short amount of time, because every time I'm with you, you radiate, positive thoughts, positive vibes. Like you say, you're passionate, you're always happy, jovial, you're generous with your time, your knowledge. So we're lucky. Those of us who are in your circle know you. We're very lucky. We're lucky that we had you here today. I think, it's almost like that comedian who leaves them wanting more. We're going to have you back now for a second, podcast. So,
well, you built it and I came.
Good.
So just invite me back, brother.
We will. And so as we depart, I'll ask you for one thing. When we get you back again in a few months, when you come back to Vegas, what will you be able to share with us that has happened in that time? In other words, when Walter looks forward, what is it that you want to accomplish in the next 6, 9, 12 months?
I'm building a county-wide case management system for what we call the safety net. Workforce boards, job centers, nonprofits, food pantries, homeless shelters, clothing banks. We're the safety net. So if you think about a safety net, I want you to think safety net, right? And then think matrix.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's cool.
I want to build a system. We're working on it right now. Amanda Wagner, Bernice Gonzalez that works on our team. We're building a team to take that safety net and we're digitizing it. So think about that net and think about if it looked like the matrix with different codes running through every string. I am working with our team where I'm working in a team. It's not me. We have a great team. And we are taking everything that people do and we're saying a workforce development, or workforce related, and we're creating a universal language, a digital language like the matrix. And we're digitizing every type of service provider and every service. And we're creating this universal system. And that's what I hope to come back. And to give you a real quick, what does that look like? Last year in Maryland, we had 600,000 eviction notices. Prince George's County is one of those counties that had a lot of evictions, right? We also have a high population of youth in high schools that miss 3 weeks or more, right? Chronic absenteeism. We also had, in our county alone, 40,000 plus households access food. All right, so let's put all that together. Food, housing, education. What I want to do is create a system where if you miss your rent payment, your leasing office says, hey, we can connect you. If you missed your payment, you lost your job. Yeah, I lost my job or I got less hours. Well, let me connect you through this virtual career center and somebody to reach out to you to help you improve. Then we realized that while you lost your job, you're actually going to a food pantry because you need to get food, right? So you know that someone's unemployed so they can't pay their rent. They also are having trouble putting food on the table. What do you think happens to the kid in that household? What if they start missing school? What if they start having behavior issues? What I want to do with the system is that when Walter is in school and you see a drastic change in Walter's behavior, and you say, we might have to expel Walter because the last 3 months he's been a terror. You say, wait, let me look in our virtual career center. And you realize that in Walter's household, that the household is also working with the local food pantry, which means that, Walter's house, the last 3 months, they've been going to the food pantry, so they need food. In the last 3 months, they've also receiving rental assistance. So you say like, hey, the household accessing rental assistance and the household accessing food services they started accessing those services around the same time that Walter started acting out in school. So instead of expelling Walter, let's understand what's going on with this 13-year-old. He's now experiencing food insecurities. He's now experiencing a household that could be experiencing poverty. And that could be driving the behavioral change. So let's not expel Walter. Let's work together to be the safety net of that household. And let's all communicate as that safety net through that digital code so that, no, we don't expel Walter. We help give him mental health counseling and critical thinking and talk about how to address it. We help Walter's father and mother make sure they have a livable wage job so they can afford to pay the rent and they don't get evicted. And then let's also, while we're doing that, provide emergency supports like rental assistance, like food pantry services, like utility assistance. And that's what I want to build. And so we're working on it right now. And so I hope in the next 6 months we can roll it out to other partners and give you all a test case and what it likes to have a true one-stop shop for data and start talking about how that can change and help you better track and provide services and resources to your community.
Walter, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear it. And this is why, again, if you're an executive director like us for a board and you're not a part of NOB, this is what you're missing out. You got to get in there with us at NOB, at NODUP, at the U.S. Conference of Mayors Workforce Development Council, so you can share these best practices. And also, I'm glad you mentioned Bob Lanter from CWA. Because, that's the largest state association, right? They have 40-something boards. And Bob just helped us, the CWA helped us with our RFP process. But I think, Walter, as we depart today, we're definitely going to have you back for part 2. I can't wait to see, that safety net become a reality. And again, I'm sure that our peers that are listening, and if you're listening and we forgot your name, Danielle, Mark, all you out there, we love you. Walter and I love you. We just can't say 550 names in one show, right, Walter?
We definitely love everybody.
Yeah, so we love everybody. Walter, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Jaime.
Yep. So that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope you join us at the next one. Until then, stay safe. Walter, thank you for staying over and doing our bonus segment, Call Against the Wall.
Let's do it.
All right. The first segment is called Your Favorites. I'm going to give you a category, and you're going to give me your favorite in that category. Let's start with your favorite food.
Seafood.
Favorite movie.
Ooh.
You just told me a good one.
Legends of the Fall.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say The Matrix.
Legends of the Fall.
Your favorite book.
Crucial Conversations.
Ooh, I love that one. Favorite city to visit.
St. Thomas.
Favorite subject in school.
History.
Favorite sport in school.
Football Americano.
Yeah, you told us that. You gave a shout out to your coach. Your favorite artist or musical group.
Ooh. Wale.
Favorite holiday.
Christmas.
And this one I think I know because I was there with you. Favorite sports team.
Washington Commanders.
Yep, I got the gear too. I came back with a beanie.
There you go.
All right, Walter, you made it past the first segment. The second one is called Tough Choices. Are you ready?
Maybe.
Would you rather vacation or staycation?
If it's in the U.S. Virgin Islands, vacation.
All right. Would you rather drive to that spot or fly to your vacation spot?
Fly.
Would you rather stay in a hotel or an Airbnb?
All-inclusive hotel with great food.
Love it. In the morning.
That Jaime pays for.
In the morning, in the morning, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
In the evening, wine or beer?
Ooh. Beer.
On a weekend, would you rather cook at home or go out to eat at a restaurant?
Am I cooking?
Yes.
Restaurant.
Okay. Would you rather owe money or owe a favor?
A favor.
And here's a tough one, Walter. Justice or grace?
Grace.
Actions or words?
Actions.
Well, you made it past the second segment, Walter. You're rounding the corner to the final stretch. The last segment is called Finish the Sentence. Are you ready?
You got it.
If Walter could live anywhere, it would be...
Charleston.
The best part of living in Maryland is...
The people.
Walter's favorite thing about his job is...
Helping others.
If Walter could travel back in time, he would travel to...
Anywhere with my father.
3 words that describe Walter are...
Love, intensity, innovation.
Couldn't agree more. And Walter, doing the WC podcast here in Las Vegas with us today was...
An honor.
Wow. Well, Walter, thank you for staying over and doing the bonus segment.
Thank you.